chim bao bầu.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Ryno. The Kings return to the hardwood tonight, back in Sacramento off of a 3-1 road trip. These games, not always the easiest coming off of a long road trip, but the schedule lines up nice. They get the Raptors. They get some comeback real quick after the loss, the only loss on the road trip. Everybody riding high still after this play from Domantas Sabonis.
Heel of the rim, no good. Scramble, rebound, Sabonis, put back, score it! 7/10 of a second to go. He had a desperation putback in Toronto that resulted in the Kings getting to overtime, and this time he may have just won the game.
He absolutely did win the game. We've got breaking news for you on the other side. Not breaking, but news nonetheless about who's in, who's out. We'll talk about the matchup. We'll talk about what the Kings need to do different tonight on their home court. And we open it up to all you. You want to call the show? You got the code. It is on the screen. Also, you can hit the link that's in the chat. Welcome in to the Kings-Raptors pregame show on If You Don't Like That.
Late nights on the screen, hey, it's Grant and Ryan. We bleed purple, talking hoops, never lying. Sacramento Kings, we rise and we fall. If you don't like that, then you don't know ball. Jerry sitting with the stories of the game, spilling all the truth, driving legends insane. From the Cow Palace days to Arco's roar, this town's heart beats on the hardwood floor. If you don't like that, turn away now. Kings in our blood, we ride strong and proud. Running up the score, Kings never back down. If you don't like that, this ain't your town.
And welcome back in. Ryan in Sacktown with you, getting you ready for the Kings and the Raptors tonight. A Raptors team that played well in Denver on Monday night, by the way. They put up over 120 points, 2-point game. And by the way, let me ask a question really quick to everybody in the chat. Does the Western Conference have a Golden State problem? Golden State was up double digits in Boston. I believe the last time I checked, it narrowed. It's about a 5-point game. But Golden State, are they for real? I mean, if you look at the plus minus for Golden State on the season coming into tonight, their net rating is 17.3. 17.3. That is massive. And some of this was without Steph Curry. He's back in the lineup now, but we'll talk about that as the show goes on. We've got full coverage tonight for you, beginning now with the pregame show. Jerry Reynolds will be with us at halftime, and then we wrap it up with your phone calls at the end of the night. The Kings home from a big road trip. They go 3-1. Man, it would have been nice to go 4-0. But I think everybody here will take 3-1. I don't think anybody has an issue with that. The one blemish on that record was against this Raptors team who is in Sacramento tonight. The Kings with a clean injury report. Believe it or not, a clean injury report, meaning Kevin Huerter is back in Coach Brown's pregame press conference that just wrapped up a few minutes ago. He said Kevin will be back in the starting lineup. So that is very big for the balance of this team, especially considering the minutes that the starters have been playing. Coach Brown having to go a little bit more into the bench the second half of the road trip, as I have a fly flying around my microphone, a little gnat, of course, because there's lights everywhere. Anyways, I want to get you in on the action. We can talk about the road trip. I've got audio from after the game, also shoot around today from DeMar DeRozan and De'Aaron Fox. A lot's being made over what happened in the locker room during halftime in the Miami game. I mean, I don't want to blow it out of proportion. It seems like it's getting a little bit blown out of proportion, but yeah, it got a little heated. The guys dug into each other. They held each other accountable, and guess what? That's exactly what you want teammates to do, especially early on in this season. And you can't help but think how DeMar DeRozan changes the balance of leadership in the locker room. It doesn't take any leadership away from anybody that had it before. It just adds to it. And one thing that we can look at with the Kings, and I know the record, we look back at the losses start the season, the one in Toronto, but at this point in the season last year, the Kings had already been blown out twice by double digits. I mean, not even close, in back-to-backs by Houston. So every game for the most part this season has been competitive. Tonight, what will it be? Will the Kings cover the spread? It's 9.5 points. That's a lot of points for the first game back from a long road trip. I don't know. I'm not an action guy, but 9.5 seems like a lot for tonight. Looking at the stats from the road trip, they look pretty damn good. Now, the one thing that does not look good, believe it or not, on this road trip, the Kings only shot the three ball at 29.8%. 29.8%, yet they go 3-1 on the road trip. You look at some of the other concerning statistics for the Kings. One that I'm looking at that not a lot of people are focusing on is the assist. Now, it's not terrible, 25.1 a game. They're middle of the pack, just a little bit worse than middle of the pack. It's 17th in the NBA. But one stat that is a little bit troubling, a problem that Sacramento has dealt with for the last couple years that they corrected in that third quarter against Miami, is the three ball. The Kings are allowing 39.6 threes a game to their opponents. That is far too many. That's 25th in the NBA. And you hear Coach Brown talking about running guys off the three-point line, making sure that we are defending without fouling, high-fiving when you contest on a closeout, all those things. But that is a lot of threes. At some point, teams are going to catch a little bit of fire when you're shooting that many. So a lot to talk about. Want to get you in on the conversation. We are brought to you by Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland. Make sure you go to bennettsrestaurants.com. Check out all of their 3 locations here in the greater Sacramento area. Great specials. We'll talk about them here more in a little bit, but huge thanks to Bennett for picking us up and sponsoring the show today. Here was your shot chart as we go through some of your comments. This was the shot chart in the second half of the game against the Heat. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. Heat, Kings get a miracle at the buzzer. And by the way, you know the coolest part about that for me? I talked about it on the Kings court yesterday. It was the fact that Domantas Sabonis finally got kind of his moment. I mean, he's a machine. The dude does everything. Half the time, you don't realize he's an assist away or 2 rebounds away from a triple-double. He's that smooth, that efficient. But when you think about his time here in Sacramento, how many signature moments does he really have? That is definitely one of them. The fall away that we heard from the G-Man at the beginning of the show. Happy to see him get that, and that was not an easy shot. That was a very hard shot. But the Kings completely turned that game around in the third quarter, 37-17. And the Kings didn't just do it on the offensive end. It was the defensive end. They only allowed 1 3-pointer in the third quarter after allowing 11 in the first half to the Miami Heat. The flow of the game completely changed. For the first time in that game, the Miami Heat felt the Kings. And when I say felt, I mean from a physical standpoint. And we can talk about the referees. The refs let that game get out of hand, way out of hand. Now, the refs have been letting guys play a little bit more similar to the end of last year, which I'm all good with. That jives well for the brand that Mike Brown wants his team to play. But that one, I would say the Kings did not necessarily get the fair end of the whistle, and the refs, again, lost control of it. They tried to bring it back in the second half. It just did not work out. The Kings end up only shooting 15 free throws to Miami's 30. Bane already getting his prediction in. He's going Kings 115. Oh, okay, Bane, you're trolling me. You got to do it the other way, dude. I'm trying to keep you out of trouble with Napes, and you keep doing this stuff, Bane, man. I send you to school, I buy you the books, and you eat the damn covers, Bane. Come on, Bane. Nathan, what's up, my man? 122, 116. Again, I remind you, the Raptors put up, I want to be accurate here, 119 points in Denver, a game that they led most of the game. So we know the Raptors can score the ball, and what you have is a group of guys which are dealing with the exact same injury list that we saw on Saturday night. No Emmanuel Quickly, no Scotty Barnes, no Kelly Olynyk. So you've got a group of guys that are getting extended minutes that aren't looking over their shoulders, but are playing with confidence. DeMar DeRozan talked about that earlier today at Shoot Around. We're going to hear from him in just a few minutes. What's up, Dave? Hope your Wednesday is going well, my friend. Let me know where you're watching the show from. I always like the check-ins, so check in. Let me know. If you want to look, here is, let's get this up for you. You can look at the Raptors a little bit about what they're doing while we're going through the comments. Frog, tonight will tell me a lot about the DNA makeup of this team. Last year, there were teams the Kings couldn't figure out. I hope this isn't the case tonight. Well, the key to what the Raptors did in the game on Saturday night, when Vince Carter got his jersey retired, the key was pressure. Pressure was everything for them. Now, they are great at forcing turnovers. We talked about their numbers in the pregame show on Saturday. The Kings did a little bit one-on-one ball, a little bit of that too much. And areas, I mean, you saw Grady Dick strip DeMar DeRozan. How often have we seen that this season? Rarely, especially when he's in ISO. De'Aaron Fox had the ball taken away from him a few times. So the Kings have to protect the ball, but they've also got to find a way to get downhill tonight. You cannot let that Raptors defense dictate where you are starting your offense if you're the Kings. The Kings offense runs best when the point guard or whoever is bringing the ball up is bringing it up with pace. Important word that we heard throughout training camp, a number that we pay attention to with the Kings, see where they're rated pace-wise relative to the rest of the NBA. You have got to find a way to break that pressure up, because that's what you guys all know. This is the return to Sacramento, the only game this season Davion Mitchell will be back in Sacramento. Davion and Foxy went after it on Saturday night. You don't think you're going to get a second helping of that tonight with Davion in Sacramento? Absolutely you will. So the pressure, how the Kings handle it, that is what I am looking at. And can the Kings put some pressure on them? They're missing their best ball handlers in Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickly. So why can't the Kings apply that same pressure? But I agree. I hope that's not the case tonight as well. Lights. Yes, Herter is playing. He will be starting tonight. Bam is a hard matchup for him. Might have been the best I've seen Sabonis against him. Sabonis got his ass kicked in that game. Absolutely got his ass kicked. I said yesterday on the Kings court that Bam looked like one of those wacky, wavy, inflatable tube guys at the car wash. You know, like he's just flailing his arms all around, being an idiot. A couple of them hit Sabonis in the jaw. It's part of Sabonis's game to take a couple to the face every night. It's almost like it gets him going. But it got a little bit ridiculous in Miami. But yes, he did have a good performance against him. Let's see. Does Philip from Galt ever call in? He's a huge fan. I don't remember speaking to Philip and Galt, but doesn't mean I haven't. Citrus Heights checking in. Celtics tied the game with the Warriors. Love it. Is anyone watching from Sunrise Land? Acknowledge me. Good job. Good job, Justin. Well done. Anytime you work in a sponsor, you're going to get an acknowledge. Good job, dude. Never heard of him, but had a good start. Davion is so good. Depends on what you're talking about. Davion is growing. He's better in an offense like Toronto. Defense, excellent. Davion is the exact type of player that you hope not to play against night in, night out. And that's part of what pushed Fox while Davion was here. What made Fox better? You don't think Davion improved Fox's ball handling in practice? That was a huge thing. Who's applying that pressure now in practice? It's not Keon. Maybe Keon, but Keon was with the starting lineup. But Keon and Davion are completely different players, completely different. So anyways, glad for the opportunity he's getting. Yeah, I'm happy for him as well. Not saying Domas doesn't play hard, but do y'all think he flops sometimes? It's a good question, Moss. No. I does he sell a call here and there? Yes, absolutely. Does he wind up on the floor a little bit more than maybe he needs to? Yes, but predominantly, I don't think that he flops very much. Now, I'll be transparent. The stomp to the chest with Draymond, which still Draymond should have received the discipline that he got from it, he didn't get him that clean. So, yes, that was a little bit of a flop and a sell, but what are you supposed to do? Who in this show, watching this show, would not have sold that? Of course you're going to sell that. Anthony, let's go. Kings, light the beam. Yes, indeed. We are looking for another beam here on the season to take the Kings back over the 500 mark. Again, coming off of a 3-1 road trip for this team. Excuse me, 2 games over the 500 mark. Your Kings are 4-1 right now, and they're in a little bit of a weird spot. They've only played 2 home games. Only 2 home games, and I'm not going to put the cart before the horse, but they've got a brutal stretch coming up here in the next week. We can hit that later in the show as well. If you would like to call the show, I would love to hear from you. You can use the QR code or you can scan the link that is in the chat. Let's talk about Toronto and their players and their stats. You know, not a ton to gush over. Obviously, RJ Barrett was a problem last game. Jakob Hurtle, his length was a little bit of a problem for Sabonis. You had a couple guys that absolutely showed out that don't usually put up a ton of points. What about Boucher? Are you kidding me? You think he's going to do that again? If he does that again, it's going to be trouble for the Kings tonight. But Toronto is without their best players right now, or their best player, I should say, in Scotty Barnes. This is a game the Kings should win. Now, again, the first game after a road trip is usually a little bit difficult. The Kings only got 24 hours off after their win in Miami. In fact, they spent the night in Miami, something that usually they would fly home after the game. They spent the night. They came back. They had shoot around today. Here's what DeMar had to say about the Raptors today at shoot around.
They compete, man. When in this league, you got a group of guys that compete at a high level for 48 minutes. That's all you can ask for. You know, no matter if you have less talent or more talent, when you got a team that could compete, anything is possible every single night. You know, and their record not indicative of the competitors that they are. You got to give them credit. You know, they well coached. You got guys going out there playing their roles to the best of their ability. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be another tough one for us tonight, but you know, we need to get this one. I know.
Yeah, and that's why the spread really surprised me tonight. 9.5 points. Now it's moved to 11.5 points in favor of Sacramento. That seems a little heavy-handed to me, considering they are coming off a road trip. But you also have to remember this. These are teams that the Kings traditionally have struggled with in the last 2 years. And I know they lost to Toronto on Saturday, but that loss, I put a little asterisk next to it because, one, that is a tough travel. That was a wacky road trip to go to Atlanta and then all the way back up to Toronto on a back-to-back. And then you've got the Vince Carter jersey retirement, jersey raising, which I thought was one of the better ones I've ever seen. Really cool ceremony. What a genuine guy. Totally deserves everything that he got on Saturday night and more. But then you had a 35-minute layoff between halftime and the start of the third quarter. It was a big ask, but the point is, the game was still competitive. The Kings had a chance. In games against teams the Kings are clearly better than this season, the Kings have been in every single game. They've won every game with the exception of this one against Toronto on Saturday, but they still had a chance. What I'm saying is your Kings right now, their net rating on the season is like almost 3 or 4 times higher than it was all of last season, which is something important. The Kings now, they're a 4 point, let me look. They're 4.3 right now in the net rating category. And the net rating is what tells you who is a good team and who is not a good team. Now, do I think Golden State's going to continue to be a 17.3? I don't think so. They're probably going to come back to earth. But Oklahoma City, they're a 17 plus 4 atop the Western Conference in net rating. So we're seeing some differences in this team. I did tell you about, it wasn't an altercation. It was the guys holding each other accountable at halftime in Miami. Here is what DeMar had to say about it.
We was giving up a lot of easy shots. We wasn't physical. We wasn't letting the Heat feel us. You know, we was just kind of BSing. You know, and we picked it up second half. So we just got on one another, holding each other accountable in overtime.
Sign of good leadership. Sign of a healthy locker room. Now, there's still some questions about this team, especially coming off the bench. I'm seeing some things that are giving me hope about the bench unit. One of those big adjustments that's given me a decent amount of hope is the fact that we are seeing Domas getting minutes with Malik Monk. That is such a big part of Malik Monk's game and also a big part of Domas's game too. It helps him rack up the points, get to the foul line. Again, the Kings have been excellent from the foul line this season, number 1 in the NBA from the free throws in terms of percentage. But the second unit without a little bit of Domas and Malik looks lost at times. Trey Lyles, if you asked me to give him a grade thus far into the season, I'm giving him a C. And I'm giving him a C because his defense has been actually pretty good. Even though he's not scoring, he's being aggressive and tipping balls and using the crash zones, as Coach Brown and the rest of the coaches has asked the players to do. But he needs to get more aggressive with his offensive game. He did it a little bit. He did it a little bit in Toronto where he got to the rim. He needs to do more of that. I think the more this Sacramento Kings team gets downhill, the better for this Kings team, not only for the flow and the rhythm of their offense, but also getting the other team into foul trouble. We've seen glimpses of how this team can look out on the break. And in Miami on the other night, they only had 5 fast break points and they won the game. 5 fast break points. Now, turnovers have been a problem for this Kings team. That is an area that absolutely needs to get cleaned up. The other area that I think needs to get cleaned up is the assists. The assists are bugging me. They're averaging 25.1 a game. Anytime the Kings were usually over 30 last season, it was part of the recipe for a beam being lit. My worry about the assist, and it's not so much about the one-on-one basketball, DeMar going into ISO. It is more so relegated around the fact that you have players like Keegan Murray, certain guys that aren't touching the ball a ton. And the ball gives you energy. As stupid as it sounds, if you've ever played basketball at a competitive level, there is a difference to playing the game when you feel like you are involved in the game. Everybody in the third quarter in Miami felt involved. and it picks up your performance on both sides of the ball. So I would like to see that ball moving around a little bit more than we have seen early in this season. And I think that will help. I don't think the Kings with the 3 ball are going to still live in the percentage that they're at right now for the season. 20, it's crazy to think that this Sacramento Kings team, who has predominantly been classified as a 3-point shooting team over the past 2 seasons, went on an East Coast road trip and went 3-1 shooting the 3 ball at 29.8%. That is insane. So anyways, getting to the Kings, here are your latest ratings on them. You can give those a quick glance. Will, quote, end quote, Eliason, Keita is going off for Boston. Why did Monty get rid of him? Because, well, I'm not Monty, so I can't say because, but systems are different for players. The best example that I can give you is like a Davion Mitchell. Now, I'm not saying Davion is balling out in Toronto, but the style of basketball that Toronto plays, a little bit more of grinded out, a little bit more inside out, not as fast paced, although their pace will tell you they like to run, and they do. Where the Kings, again, offensive rebounds. I haven't mentioned that yet, so let me hit that really quick while it's on my mind. Offensive rebounds. The Kings have got to keep the Raptors off of the boards tonight. They did a bad job of it in Toronto. The Raptors are one of the better teams in the NBA. Coming into the game on Saturday, the Raptors were 3rd in the NBA in offensive rebounding. But back to my point, Boston plays a different system than the Kings play. Keita is not an up and down center. Alex Len, and I'm not saying Alex Len is the best choice for this team. I'm not saying there's not a better guy out there, because there is. There absolutely is. And that's true of every team. That's not just the Kings. I'm not being critical of Alex Len. I think he plays his role very well, but he is better at getting up and down the court. He can run with the quick guys. Keita cannot. So that's part of the consideration. And here's the other thing. Players grow, Will. Players grow. They get better. You can't look at a player that's going off in Boston now. What, Keita was here 2 seasons ago? Maybe 3 seasons ago? And say, why did we let him go? Guys get better. So I don't have a problem with that move. Matthew, No Mas Domas doesn't flop. No Mas Domas? What the hell? No Mas Domas. That's a new one for me. Want to know where all you are watching from. I saw Citrus Heights. Let me know where you're checking in. 218 have popped in at some point today across all of our various platforms on YouTube and X. So thank you for doing so. Flores getting his first contribution in of the day. Statistically, it looks like we should have a better record. You know, Flores, that's not a bad point. It's not a bad point. Let's look at the Kings statistics, by the way. Here's your player statistics while we're on the subject. Yeah, you know, Flores, they're a 4.3 in the net rating. I don't know. That's hard. That's hard. I got to think about that one. That could be a podcast subject. Good job, Flores. Good contribution, my man. Sean, watching from Roseville. Love it. You know what else is in Roseville? One of our favorite places and the sponsor of tonight's show. That is Bennett's. That's right. The West Side Grill's in Rockland, but there's also a location in Roseville and a third location off of Howe and Fair Oaks. If you have not had the opportunity to get to Bennett's, do me a favor, go to bennettsrestaurants.com, check out their amazing menu of American cuisine, including prime cuts of seafood and steak. And if it sounds expensive, think again. Go check out their different specials they have throughout the week. Monday's Wine and Dine Monday. You can get 2 entrees and a bottle of champagne or a bottle of wine under $70. Same thing with brunch on the weekends. Same special, but it's a bottle of champagne and you can get out under $50. Happy hour 2 to 6 Monday through Friday. Their sips and taste, as they call them, 60 different wines by the glass, prime rib on the weekends. I could go on the rest of the pregame show, but in all seriousness, Bennett's is our favorite place here in town to go. You will find Jerry and I there all the time for lunch. When Grant's in town, he'll do double days at Bennett's. Anybody that's been there, let them know that you heard about them here on If You Don't Like That. We would greatly appreciate that. And do us a favor, go check them out at bennettsrestaurants.com. Now taking your online orders right there on the website. You can check out the full menu, all their specials, and much more. So huge thanks to them for sponsoring the Kings pregame show. Kings-Raptors getting ready to tip off here in roughly about 20 minutes. About 7:07 is going to be your tip-off. TV coverage starting at 7. I know that pregame show's going on. I think this one's better. You get to interact with this one. Let me know what you think. But here are your Kings numbers as you look at them. You can make the decision if you think the Kings are better than their record shows. Kevin, what's up, my man?
Acknowledge me.
Let's see. Anthony would love to see the Kings go on a run, 8 to 10 game win streak, something we haven't seen in a while. Au contraire, Anthony, the Kings 2 years ago went on a pretty damn good streak after the All-Star break. They had a really good road trip before the All-Star break. It was a weird road trip too. I believe it was a 7 or 8 game road trip. So they've had a few of them. They have definitely had a few of them. Kevin, I already acknowledged you, bro. You already got acknowledged. The app Sleeper just reported it. What did Sleeper report? That Matthew said the Kings are going to win 140 to 111? Holy crap. That'd be a lot of points for the Kings tonight. Morant got hurt. Wow. That was one of the big questions coming into the year. Could Ja make it through a full season this season after being off? Could he keep himself on the court just from a behavior standpoint? That Memphis team still trying to figure it out. You can bet that they are still going to be in contention, but who knows how long he is going to be out. In fact, the Western Conference runs down like this. We can talk about it really quick as you guys put your final scores into the chat. We'll get those up as well. Thunder 7-0 coming into tonight. Phoenix, a surprise to me and others, 6-1. Golden State 6-1. We've already hit them earlier in the show. Houston 4-3. The Lakers 4-3. Dallas 4-3. Dallas does not surprise me at 4-3. Or 4-3. Minnesota 4-3. Denver 4-3. Your Kings 4-3. Memphis 4-4. Clippers, who we'll see here in a night or two, 3-4. San Antonio 3-4. Portland 3-5. New Orleans. Keep a close eye on New Orleans. Keep a very close eye on what happens there. They are riddled with injuries right now. Key guys out for periods of time. Does New Orleans ever get it on track? And if they don't, what does New Orleans do at the trade deadline? That's what I'm paying attention to. Utah 1-6 on the season. Your NBA scores tonight look like this so far. The Knicks about to lose to the Hawks. Current score 118 to 111, 18.9 seconds left in the game there. The Knicks struggling right now. The Warriors up 3 in Boston. Unreal. Up 3 in Boston. You know the Warriors are number 1 in the NBA in assists? That's crazy. Buddy Hield cooking. Oh my God, that bugs me. I don't like Buddy Hield. I should not be giving my preferences here, but I'm sure I'm not the only one after what he said about Sacramento. The Rockets currently up on the Spurs 104-80 with 10:04 to go in the fourth quarter. End of the third quarter. The Grizzlies up 14 on the Lakers. The Jaw news that is in the chat, I'm not able to verify that, but if that is true, that's going to be another big loss for the Grizz. The Cavaliers up 101-88 on the Pelicans, who we just talked about. The Mavericks 56-45 at the half over the Bulls. The Thunder up 6 on the Nuggets. Pay attention to that one. The Nuggets, a lot of questions flying around Denver about that team. Has the window closed a little bit there? That is with 6:04 left to go in the second half, 45-39. And the Heat, 46-45, down by 1 to the Phoenix Suns, 4:14 left to go in the second half. Our game tonight, though, the Kings and the Toronto Raptors. Let me know your final scores. We'll get those up. Remember, we are going to be back at halftime. Super, super excited to have the one and only Jerry Reynolds join us every halftime here on If You Don't Like That. Also, the post-game show will be taking your calls. Make sure that you come back and make sure that you're subscribed. If you are not subscribed to If You Don't Like That, hit that QR code or take a picture of it. And you can find our entire library of Kings game day coverage. Also, a ton of other content. There is more content there than you could probably watch in, I don't know. There's a ton of content. I can promise you that. But thank you if you are already subscribed. We greatly appreciate that. Come back around for the post game tonight. As I said, we open it up to all of you. So, want to get your final scores? We'll get those up as well. Kevin, since you needed it, I'll give you one more.
Acknowledge me.
I think the Kings had an 8-0 streak last season too. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think it was right off of that road trip. It was right around then. They had won like 8-9 or 8-10. They had a really good road trip. Only have one more trip. Oh, nice. Good job, dude. Good job. Moving sucks. I hate moving. And if you're a friend that asks a friend to help you move, I don't know, man. Just get the movers. Let's just say this. Lunch is not enough. You need to do more than lunch. If your buddies, well, you know what? I take that back. If you ask your friends to move, don't ask your friends to move the heaviest and most awkward stuff. Then you're being a bad friend. Don't lay that on them. Make their day a little bit easier. Come on. Huge game, big game tonight, Matthew says. Yes, indeed. Buddy Hield will come back down to earth. Trust me. I watched him in his time in Sacramento. Well, here's the thing. Buddy Hield was asked to do a lot more in Sacramento than Golden State's asking him to do. And he's also getting to the free throw line, which is bizarre. But anyways, he's just being asked in Golden State to shoot threes and score. Isn't that Buddy's dream? Don't really have to play much defense. Don't have to have the team on my back. That's like Buddy's dream. He doesn't want to work hard. Flores, 126, 119. I don't know the extent he went to the locker room. Finchy. Hey, Finch, did you see that picture I put on the X yesterday? Yeah. What do you got to say now, Finch? Look at that grill that I put out there for you, buddy. That was a good sesh. Actually, I didn't grill it. I did it in the pans. We have Hexclad pans, and it actually cooked the stuff pretty well. Go check that out. If you don't follow me on the X, consider it. It's a decent follow. Also, that is where you'll find all the links for the Kings Court. We have used to be a daily show when we are out of season, daily Monday through Friday, 2:00. But in season, we do it as much as we can. But every day you will get exclusive audio and free audio on the Kings Court, on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. Kings Insider stuff. I give you what I'm hearing from my sources, people close to the team. We break down the previous night's game, listen to audio. and much more. So give me a follow. Really appreciate it. And check out the podcast. I think you will really like it. Been getting a lot of good comments about that. So again, Kings and the Toronto Raptors tonight. Let's see, 140. We already got you, dude. We got you. I heard you. Hi, Ryan. Hope you're well. Hope you're well too, Furious Wolf. Acknowledge you.
Acknowledge me.
Got you. I got you. Hope everything is going well for you. All right. Kings getting ready to tip off here in about 14 minutes. We will be back at halftime. Kevin Huerter back in the starting lineup for the Kings. That will definitely help out. Again, my keys to this one. Obviously turnovers. The Kings have got to limit them. You cannot have unforced turnovers like they did the first meeting against Toronto. Also, offensive rebounds. You've got to keep Toronto off the offensive boards. You've got to be able to handle the pressure. They are going to pressure the Kings a ton. And it's not going to look like crazy obvious pressure, but there's going to be ball pressure baseline to baseline. De'Aaron Fox with his finger going on, he doesn't like that. So if somebody else needs to bring the ball up, let them bring the ball up. But what you need offensively is to get downhill, play with some pace, let the ball touch everybody's hands and get 30 assists tonight. The Kings get 30 assists tonight. I promise you that 3-point percentage will look a lot better by the end of the night, and the beam will be lit. So, dude, Matthew is like going hard. This is like the third or fourth time. Okay, what do you want to put on it, Matthew? You think it's going to be 140 to 111? You really think it's going to be 140 to 111? All right, we'll see. Dennis walking into the arena. Love it. Love it. Yeah, they've got to make their threes, but to me, making their threes is predicated because they're getting good looks for the most part. The looks are good. The problem is the guys that are getting the looks aren't necessarily in the flow and the rhythm of the offensive game. Like, that's been Keegan Murray's issue. He's wide open. It's just, it sounds crazy. I can't quantify it for you. I can't give you a statistic to say this is how much the person is out of flow. But when you're part of the offense and you're moving the ball around, you're touching it, it's so much easier to make those open shots rather than run up and down the court 6 times, have a wide open shot, and that's the first time you touch the ball in 6 possessions. That is a really hard thing to do. So if the ball moves, the threes are going to go in. I truly believe that. Also, my other key, you need to get minutes for Demonis and Monk together on the floor with the pick and roll, make Toronto make a decision there. And the last key, give Toronto some pressure right back at them. If they're going to shoot it at you, shoot it right back at them. All right. Yep. Light the damn beam. We are going to be back at halftime. Jerry Reynolds right here with Grant and I talking about the first 24 minutes. Go Kings. Light the damn beam. We will see you at the half. The Kings and the Raptors. Thank you so much. So long.